I know that a lot of our women have been mistreated and so forth, and yet the old days, the woman was very, very highly held in the family. They said, like they said, well, you know, we only need the man for one night. Then the race of people can go on. We don't need him after that, because they can raise the child, feed him, so forth like that. But here we are, below God, and we walk around like that. And yet, it's our women that we looked up to that had the power and the strength to make the life continue. Gosh, well now we're into this thing where our men abuse their wives, their little children, things like that. That wasn't the way it was. Now I'm speaking of the old ways. I'm not speaking of today, so maybe some of the things that I'm saying here that you young people don't even understand what I'm talking about. But that's the way it was. And the way it's going to return someday, I have that hope in my heart. I'm 75, and I told my boy said we're going to eliminate alcoholism and so forth up in Canada by the year 2000. I said, let's see, 1989. 6, I went to school, but I can't figure that out. But anyhow, it's a few years. Anyhow, I would like to live that long, to see how it comes out. See if those predictions are true. I'll know, you know, even if I'm on the other side. But I'd like to live to see it, because I think that we can feel and know the beauty. I'd like to have you young people know and feel the beauty that we had as kids. And during the early 20s, it was 1920 when I went to school at St. Elizabeth's. Remember, I was about 6 years old. And the big boys used to take care of the little fellows. And they would see, they had button shoes. They had a little piece of wire like that. Fix our shoes. See, that galley was crazy. But we had those black stockings. Short pants, even in fact, were really kind of like this, because it was kind of like a put down. We had to, and that's the reason I can't understand. The missionaries came in with all this love and everything like that, but they try to change everybody. Why don't they leave them with mozeja, the long ones, you know, like this, with moccasins, you know? But that wasn't to be. Now I guess we live in a changing world. And it was such a different world in those days. The people were so happy and enjoyed each other. Everybody was related. You could go any place, ride any place you wanted to. And I used to run around with a fellow named Winnie Luswore. We'd go any place like that, and we'd stop to somebody's house. First thing you do, I don't care if you just got food in your stomach's like this. Well, come in, boys, and have go up a check or something like that, coffee. You had to eat. You didn't dare not eat, because that would be a put down to the host. I can remember that whenever the people left to go someplace, I lived down below my old grandma, John Lamont. She lived right on top of the hill over there. And she would always prepare food. She was going to go someplace, so she'd prepare food. Lay it out there, maybe washcloth or something like that. Lay it all out there like that. Put a washcloth over like that. I mean, like they used to take those old sacks and flour and cut it and put it over like that. And they'd leave the door open, because they felt that if somebody came through there and needed, and they were hungry, they'd walk in the door, go in there, and take it like that and eat. Then they would clean it, put it back up, and go on their way. That's all gone. That's really no good. But that's the way it was. You know, I guess a lot of our people cannot think back and realize and understand those beauties, but that's the way it was. And as I said, we're talking about grieving. That young fellow from Santee. Oh, I tell you what, I've heard 3 people now talk. I'll tell you what, they're really, really, really good. They can really, really talk and address issues that I don't understand. all I can do is to go back. And maybe the things I have to say aren't worth anything. But my guys, I tell you what, those old people had a way of living. And they talk about caring for one another. And they really, really had this love for the children. Things like that I don't know, it seems like, I hate to say it, but that's the way it seems like it's turning out. But I think we're coming back to it. You probably have all seen the Wakpala Lake story. Well, I was up there in '82, and those people up there started with 100% alcoholism. I mean, even the little kids. Boy, they were devastated. Man, I'll tell you, they didn't have to leave the reservation. The guy would come in a car and with this whole trunk full and sell it to them. Take all their money, drank that thing up. They were dying and everything good. Until finally, one lady, Phyllis Chelsea, they gave her credit for turning things around. Gosh, what I think is her little daughter was 7 years old and she wouldn't come home for the simple reason that she couldn't stand to come home to that kind of life anymore, the drinking and so forth. And so Phyllis realized that she was going to lose her daughter, and so she said, well, I've got to make a change in my life. And so she was the first one to quit drinking. It took a year. She was the only one. And then she finally convinced her husband, Andy, he quit. And finally, one by one. But it took a year. So we have to be patient. I mean, these things are not going to happen overnight. These things are going to take time. And the elderly people are the ones that you can turn to for help, particularly, the ones who are maintaining the old style of living. And speaking about our old people, they were such beautiful people. Kind of, I like to say they were cute. They were cute people. And, whenever they got old, after 75, I don't want to look into too far into that because I'm going to have to start preparing. They start preparing. They get everything all fixed. All your grandfathers and grandmothers, great-grandfathers, they fix things. Put things away and prepare that. They'd say, well, this is going to go to so-and-so and so forth like this, and they'd prepare everything like that. And then, when it was time to go, they died of a natural death, old age or something like that. They weren't dying of disease like alcoholism. They died of a natural death. And that was the beautiful thing that I believe that they had, because as sure as I stand here, none of us are going to get out of this alive. But it seems like we live in kind of what they call a throwaway society. We got stuff and they throw it away. They design a car now to last so many miles, and that's all. We live in a throwaway society. And what we're doing, that really hurts me, is we're throwing our old people away. Don't do that. Those old people are the ones that can teach you. They're our teachers. No matter who they are, they're our teachers. They teach us how to live. They teach us the old ways, how to love one another, care for one another, and to be mindful of the old customs they have. And so, when we start dealing with this throwaway society, it's no good. You know that I was talking about how they used to teach the youngsters. The old people would teach their youngsters. And, they didn't abuse them. They didn't use a switch on them or anything like that. They never whipped them or hit them like that. But they taught them by letting them look at how they lived as examples. They had those Iktomi stories. Iktomi stories were a lot about. Iktomi was kind of a rascal, you might say. He did things that were wrong, But they tell those stories so that they would learn from those stories that don't do this. Don't go out with don't try to court your cousin or something like that. You know, things like that. They had those stories to teach the kids lessons, but they never struck them. And I can remember there was when I was at St. Elizabeth School, there was a little girl that came over there, and I think that she was a granddaughter of Kate Bloody Knife. And I think that was kind of related to Gaul somehow. But I remember this little girl came over there, and she had never had been hand raised to her. And so she did something wrong, but she didn't understand it because she didn't understand English too good. So they told her to do something like that, and she didn't know what they meant, so she did maybe the opposite. So my God, this deaconess got a hold of her. Three crackers that frightened her. She just broke down, and she just got hysterical. She just could not understand how another human being could hit her, because she never saw that. She was sick almost. And so, by God, you know, they used to come and visit, and they couldn't stop her from crying. You know how they go? Yeah, she couldn't stop. And so finally somebody told and got the word back down to her mother. And her mother heard that. Here she came. Well, I mean, tell you what, they stirred up the wrong person. She had a big, long knife. She come out there and she walked in and was looking for Deacon. Where's Deaconess Vickers, you know, in Lakota? And boy, somebody said, gee, hold her back, you know. And Deaconess, boy, she beat it. Because Grandma Bloody Knife, we used it on her. Take a little hair off of her. But boy, I tell you what, those days, we never beat our kids. We never whipped them. We never brutalized them as they're doing today. But we taught them by example. And we would teach them how to live as good, strong human beings. Gosh, why not? You hear about this. I was just listening to those speakers. Let's see what here. But yeah, there's one guy. But not her. Not her. The other ones are talking about what's going on. Gee, crackers, it scared me because, man, I wouldn't want to be a kitty cat. You'll have to put up with that. But you see the difference? You see how lovely and beautiful those old people were? That's what made strong men and women. That's how they were raised by their fathers and mothers. You youngsters here sitting here today, you probably say that old man doesn't know what he's talking about because you've never known anything. But I'm telling you the truth. That's the truth. You ask any of these people in here, and they'll back up what I have to say. You know, these old people were so beautiful. There was an old lady, my grandfather, P.J. Deloria, got sick. He served 45 years here.